Life Stories brings you powerful tales of resilience, love, and unexpected heroism. Today's story is about Emily Carter, a blind woman who finds comfort in Lincoln Park with her loyal guide dog, Rex. But when a stranger threatens them, a shocking truth is revealed. Rex isn't just a guide dog. He's a former military canine with instincts honed in war. As Emily uncovers his past, she realizes that their bond is deeper than she ever imagined. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey, where fate, loyalty, and courage intertwine in the most unexpected ways. Lincoln Park had always been my refuge. There was something about the rustling of the old oak trees, the laughter of children playing in the distance, and the crisp scent of fresh grass that made me feel whole again. Even after everything I had lost, I had sat on the same worn wooden bench for years, letting the cool breeze touch my face, imagining the world around me as it had been before the accident, before the darkness. Beside me, Rex sat with quiet vigilance, his sturdy frame pressed close to my leg, his breathing steady and reassuring. To most, he was just a guide dog, a well-trained German shepherd. Nothing more. But to me, he was my anchor, my silent protector. He was the reason I still walked through the world with my head held high. I could feel the strength in his body, the tension in his muscles. Even in the calmest moments, he was always alert, always watching. It had been 5 years since the accident stole my sight. 5 years of learning to navigate a world I could no longer see, of accepting help when I had once been fiercely independent. Rex had come into my life 2 years after, and from the moment I held his leash, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. He was more than my eyes, he was my courage, my lifeline. That afternoon felt no different from any other. The warmth of the sun was comforting, the sounds around me familiar. But something was off. Rex shifted beside me, his ears twitching at every sound, his body slightly stiff. I could feel his unease through the tautness of the leather leash wrapped around my fingers. Then I heard them. A low murmur of laughter, heavy boots against the pavement, the scent of cigarette smoke wafting toward me. I didn't have to see them to know they were coming closer. "Look at that," a deep voice sneered. Amusement laced with something more sinister. A little princess with her perfect little dog. The voice was unfamiliar, but the tone was not. I had heard it before, in different variations, from different mouths. The condescension, the mockery. Rex stiffened, his body pressing closer against my leg. His growl was low, almost imperceptible, but I felt the vibrations against my knee. I took a steady breath and gripped his leash tighter. "Leave us alone," I said, keeping my voice firm. No fear. That was the rule. People like him thrived on fear. The man ignored me. I could hear his boots coming closer, slow and deliberate. I could hear the smirk in his voice when he spoke again. "Does he do tricks? Maybe he can jump through hoops. Roll over for us." His friends chuckled behind him. Rex didn't move, but his growl deepened. The tension in the air was thick now. I could feel it in my bones, hear it in the subtle hush of the world around us. People were watching, but no one was stopping it. That was always how it was. The bystander effect. Then, a sharp sound, hands clapping, loud and deliberate. The man was trying to provoke him. I braced myself, my heart hammering against my ribs. But Rex didn't react, didn't lunge or snarl. His discipline was unshakable. He simply remained between me and the threat, his body rigid, his head high. "Oh, a tough guy. Ha," the man taunted. I could hear the challenge in his voice. He wanted Rex to snap. He wanted a reaction. And then, suddenly, everything shifted. A rush of movement. The air shifted. I felt, rather than saw, the moment his foot lifted from the ground. "No," I gasped. But it was too late. A deep, guttural snarl tore through the air, louder than I had ever heard from Rex before. A sound not of fear, but of warning. Gasps echoed from the onlookers. The world seemed to hold its breath. The man had no idea. No idea that the dog he had just tried to kick was no ordinary guide dog. No idea that before he was mine, Rex had belonged to another world entirely. A world of war, of danger, of loyalty forged in battle. Rex wasn't just a companion. He was a warrior. And the man had just made the worst mistake of his life. The park was silent. The laughter of children had faded. The rustling leaves seemed to pause. And for a moment, even the birds stopped singing. The only sound was Rex's deep, warning growl, low and steady, like a storm brewing beneath his ribs. I felt the energy radiating from him. A controlled tension coiled like a spring, ready to explode. The man who had tried to kick him, Wade, I learned later, stumbled back. His boot barely returning to the ground before he hesitated. He hadn't expected resistance. He had expected fear. Instead, he got Rex. What the hell? Wade muttered. His voice uncertain now, edged with a nervous chuckle as if trying to brush it off. But I could hear it, his confidence was cracking. I tightened my grip on Rex's leash, my fingers trembling. You need to walk away, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But Wade wasn't done. He was a man who thrived on an audience. And the scattered murmurs of the people around us seemed to embolden him again. He laughed. But it was hollow now. Relax. Lady. It's just a dog. He's not just a dog. My voice was sharper this time, my pulse hammering in my ears. Wade scoffed. Yeah. Then what is he? As if in answer, Rex let out a single, sharp bark, a command, a warning, a promise. Wade flinched. And that was when the voice came from behind us. That's no ordinary dog, an older man said. His voice firm, certain. That's AK-9. A ripple of reaction moved through the small crowd. A few people gasped. Others murmured. I turned my head slightly toward the voice. I didn't know him. But there was something in his tone, something weighted with experience. Wade hesitated. What? The older man stepped forward. And though I couldn't see him, I could feel the shift in the air. Authority. Presence. I know that stance anywhere, he said. That's a military working dog. A shiver ran through me. Military. The word sank into my bones, suddenly making sense of everything. Rex's unwavering discipline. His heightened awareness. The way he never flinched in chaos but instead moved with an eerie, practiced precision. AK-9. Rex. My guide. My protector. A soldier. The world around me seemed to tilt, like I had been standing on solid ground only to realize it was never steady at all. I reached down, my fingers finding the thick fur at the back of Rex's neck, brushing against the collar I had buckled 100 times before. How had I never known? Wade let out an uneasy chuckle. You're kidding. Right. He's just some overgrown pet. The older man's voice hardened. No. He's trained for war. For the first time. Wade sounded unsure. Well, whatever. He overreacted. No, the man countered. He reacted exactly as he should. You're the one who made a mistake. A new voice cut through the tension. What's going on here? Firm. Authoritative. The park ranger. I exhaled sharply, the tension in my chest loosening just slightly. Wade took a step back, as if he could feel the walls closing in. Nothing. Just messing around. The ranger wasn't buying it. Threatening a guide dog isn't messing around. It's illegal. Silence. Wade let out a forced laugh. But there was no bravado left in it. Relax. I didn't mean anything. The ranger's voice didn't waver. You meant enough. I felt Rex's body relax just slightly, his rigid stance easing as he picked up on the subtle shift. The threat was diminishing. But my mind was racing. Not because of Wade. Because of Rex. Because of what I had just learned. He wasn't just my guide dog. He was something else entirely. Something I never expected. Even as Wade Turner slinked away, his bravado in tatters, I couldn't shake the weight of what had just happened. AK-9. The word clung to me, reshaping everything I thought I knew about Rex. The park ranger was still speaking, his tone firm as he made it clear Wade wasn't welcome back in Lincoln Park. The small crowd had started to disperse, their whispers fading into the distance. But I was barely listening. My hand was still resting on Rex's fur, my fingers absently brushing the thick coat I had trusted for years. Had I ever really known him? The older man, the one who had identified Rex first, was still there. I could hear him shifting slightly, his boots scuffing against the pavement as if he were deciding whether to say more. Finally, he spoke. He said, his voice softer now. I don't mean to intrude, but you should know, dogs like him don't forget their training. It's in their blood. I swallowed hard. What kind of training? Military, he said simply. Canine units aren't just regular dogs. They're trained for combat. For protection. If he reacted like that today, it's because he saw a threat. And trust me, when a dog like him sees danger, he doesn't hesitate. A lump formed in my throat. I had always known Rex was different. From the moment I was paired with him, his discipline had been unmatched. His instincts razor-sharp. He never startled. Never strayed from my side. He moved with purpose, even when I didn't understand why. And today, he had sensed Wade before I even knew something was wrong. AK-9. A military dog. I turned slightly toward the man, my voice quiet. How can I find out more? There was a pause. And then he exhaled slowly. I'd start with the people who trained him. Guide dogs are often rescues. But K9s, they come with records. If he served, someone out there knows his history. I nodded, my mind already racing. The man hesitated for a moment longer. Then, as if sensing I needed space, he murmured, "Good luck," and walked away. I barely heard him. I felt Rex's weight lean into my leg, his silent reassurance grounding me. I knelt down, my hands finding his face, tracing the strong lines of his jaw, the ears that twitched at my touch. "Rex," I whispered. "Who were you before me?" He didn't answer. Of course. But as I rested my forehead against his, I could feel it, the weight of something bigger than I had ever imagined. That night, I sat on the couch with my laptop in front of me, my fingers hovering over the keys. Where did I even start? After a long hesitation, I typed, "Military K9 history." Dozens of articles appeared, stories of dogs trained for combat. For detection. For protection. I read about their handlers. About their missions. About the loyalty that ran deeper than words. It felt surreal. Seeing Rex in their descriptions. The discipline. The intelligence. The instinct. And yet, it all made sense. An hour passed before I finally found the number of a local veterans organization that specialized in rehoming retired K9s. My hands shook as I dialed. A woman answered. Her voice warm. "Veteran K9 Services. How can I help you?" I swallowed hard. "Hi. I think my guide dog might have been a military K9 before he was placed with me." There was a pause. Then, curiosity in her tone. She asked, "Do you have his ID number?" I reached for Rex's collar, my fingers brushing over the tag I had never really thought twice about. Slowly, I read the numbers aloud. "Give me a moment," she said. I could hear typing on the other end. My heart pounded. Then, after what felt like forever, she inhaled sharply. "Your dog's name isn't Rex," she said softly. "He's Bravo. And he served overseas before he retired." I closed my eyes. Bravo. A name that carried a past I had never known. A life I had never imagined. As the weeks passed, I found myself seeing Rex Bravo in a new light. He wasn't just my guide dog, he was a protector. A soldier who had once faced dangers I couldn't even begin to imagine. And yet, Despite everything he had been through, he had chosen to stay by my side, to make me his mission. I made a promise to him that day. No matter what his past held, his future would be filled with love, purpose, and the unwavering trust we had built together. One evening, as we sat on our usual bench in Lincoln Park, I whispered, "You've saved so many lives, Rex. I hope you know you've saved mine too." He leaned against me, his quiet strength a reassurance I had come to depend on. And in that moment, I knew no matter where life took us, we would face it together. Subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible tales like this.